Hi. Recently, Joe Rogan released his newest stand-up special, Burn the Boats. I watched it multiple times, unfortunately, to get a better understanding of, Joe Rogan, his big bald head, the stuff that he likes to do, and just like what his idea of comedy is. He is a comedy understander. What does he think is funny?
After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon.
That's on you,
Michelle
man.
Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
Now, most people don't exactly know Joe Rogan for stand-up comedy. They either know him from TV in general or specifically his political podcast. I mean, non-political entertainment comedy podcast where he says vaccines are fake and immigrants are ruining the country and has billionaire right-wing donors on to hear what they have to say. Oh, what's that? You believe in race science? Cool. Listen, Joe Rogan has talked about like a million different things in his life. He's done a million different episodes of his podcast because I guess he doesn't have that much else stuff to do. But for as much as Joe Rogan might maintain a veil of apoliticalness, I don't know, whatever. Joe Rogan himself is still a very politicized figure in the year of our Lord 2024. He might not see it that way, but it doesn't change the fact that he's Diet Fox News when he's talking about basically anything other than drugs and apes. But he also talks to MMA fighters and celebrities and random other people. He just occasionally has fucking Ben Shapiro on because he thinks he's a smart guy. Joe Rogan loves to act like he thinks he's stupid, but then take his endorsement of who he thinks is smart as absolute fact and undeniable reality. Like, you acknowledge you're stupid, but you're not acknowledging that tricksters are working on you. So Joe Rogan throughout his career has done a number of high-profile comedy specials published by Netflix. And for context, his 2016 special was called Triggered. So for me, it's at least interesting to see that kind of guy 8 years deep. You know what I mean? It's not like he's exactly reformed or changed at all in that time. Well, not for the better. So as far as the show itself, his comedic delivery is blunt, to say the least.
I think they're sitting in the spaceship going, what if somebody believes him? Put something in his ass. Make him love it. Make him just jizz all over himself. Just, oh, Jesus! Oh, God!
Now listen, there's value to yelling the right joke at the right time.
Imagine if you have your greatest orgasm ever on an operating table on a spaceship. Oh, Jesus!
But maybe it's how noticeably high Joe Rogan is on stage that has made him forget just how many times he yelled a joke and just screamed stupid shit so loud it blows out the speakers.
And we both looked at each other and went, ah!
See, if the sound system gets all fucked up, nobody can hear how a few people are laughing at his bad jokes. He does it so much, and sometimes so randomly, that it comes across very desperate, especially the fourth or fifth time.
You literally strap yourself into your chair, and every now and then they come by with water. You're like, oh! Oh!
He opens the show with some jokes about Buc-ee's in extremely Joe Rogan fashion, too, talking about like a fake poser reason that he's super into Texas.
Buc-ee's is where I take all my friends from California. They're like, why do you like Texas so much? I take them right to Buc-ee's. I'm like, behold!
When the actual reason is his own personal grievance politics and low taxes. And then the punchline is really loud, in volume, that is.
I want my gas station now, pickled alligator dicks and Chuck Norris action jeans and... How come you can't vote here?
This is a nitpick, obviously. This whole video is. But he calls Texas his new home state.
This is my new home state. I've been living here for 4 years. I fucking love it.
Man, you've lived there for 4 years. It's not new anymore. We get it. You're a Texas guy. It's so stupid. Yeah, I just couldn't take California. They make you pay for water. I'd rather pay to drive on the highway like a real American. Freedom ain't not free, brother. It costs 48 cents a mile. He then pivots to aliens and a 4-year-old Joe Biden joke.
You can come here from another planet. You really think you're gonna want to talk to Biden? Like, take me to your leader. I got hairy legs. My uncle got eaten by a cannibal.
Thinking back, I don't know if Joe Rogan actually wrote any of this material or he's just kind of like on the fly remembering what he thinks about while he's scrolling his Facebook page. But what if Joe Biden did that? What if Joe Biden did say that to the aliens, though? The aliens would be like, what? By the way, the special is called Burn the Boats, but not for seemingly any particular reason. He doesn't say any of that stuff. He talks more about butt stuff than he talks more about boat stuff than he does about butt stuff in this special. Less than 10 minutes in, by the way, we're talking about COVID already. That's awesome.
COVID was just so strange. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive.
Normal to think about COVID all the time in 2024. Not like COVID the virus and how you could still get it now, but you know what life was like under lockdowns, which were fucking unjustifiable, man. They didn't let me get a haircut on my bald head. Sorry, was the punchline not loud enough for you? Ah, my haircut! I need to get my haircut! Oh my god!
Before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon.
That's
I
on
think
you,
Michelle
man.
Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
See, Joe Rogan believes in all this stupid, crazy stuff. That's because the world is crazy now. Not because he's stupid. Not because he's a gullible, dumb man. The world is just crazy. Thankfully, he doesn't harp too much on the COVID stuff, but he, of course, just had to get it out there. It's just been gestating for 4 years. His next joke isn't bad or anything. It's just kind of uncreative.
A lot of people are like, I like to microdose. It makes food taste better. It makes sex feel better. You got to get to what are memories made out of? You know? You got to go to that. Maybe the universe is God. You got to get to that place.
But it has always bothered me how shallow Joe Rogan's deepness is. Like, what are memories made of? What if time is like a sound? I just wish there was something that distinguished the way Joe Rogan talked about psychedelics from your fucking college friend that did them one time and thought it was huge and eye-opening. It's simultaneously really baffling to me, but also really funny that Joe Rogan takes, like, DMT and sits around like a gorilla being like, are shadows a liquid or a solid? This guy could call Bill Nye and have a podcast with him tomorrow to explain all this stuff.
So I walk through the cancer machine and this light goes off. And this is exactly how this lady said this to me. She goes, sir, you've been randomly selected for additional screening. Male assist. And I'm like, male assist? Did you just assume my gender?
I think maybe senility or perhaps long COVID have caused his brain to think that maybe he came up with that instead of it being a right-wing 4chan motto for the better part of a decade. This is taking me back to when Roseanne said your gender is get a job. Get a job! That's your gender! That's my Roseanne Barr impression. Do you like it? I'm so glad conservative comedy is still so cutting edge and refreshing.
I was born in 1967, and when I was a boy, you could be Hitler for Halloween. Nobody cared.
Now, not only do I think it's irresponsible to act like that's normal, because it definitely will give some people ideas to ruin their child's future, but I also think he's just lying. Yeah, maybe when you were in a frat, someone dressed up as Hitler for Halloween.
You can show me a Jewish friend's house. I'm like, oh, look at the little Fuhrer. Give a little tussle of your hair. Throw a candy in your bag.
What the fuck? Who would do that? He also seems to think that people disagree with Hitler Halloween costumes because they actually think it's Hitler.
They knew you weren't really Hitler. Right? He's dead and you're 4. This is ridiculous.
4 years old dressing as Hitler? The more he elaborates on this thing he made up, the more fucking confusing it is. And then he's like, you know, wokeness is communism. Of course. And that's a joke. That's a funny joke. That is a punchline that people register in their minds as comedy. The world is a fuck, and I am a shit within it.
And I get why the young people want to be woke. I really do. The old people have fucked up the world. Let's try communism. I get it. You don't know any better. I get it.
I really want to know what he thinks communism even means in this context. Like, what do you mean by this? For a guy that's supposedly in on government conspiracies and savvy on how the government likes to hide stuff from you or whatever, he seems to have missed the very open conspiracy to undermine and destroy leftist movements in America and globally. All throughout the 20th century. Maybe he missed how MLK died, or Fred Hampton died, or Malcolm X died. Maybe he thought that was natural causes or something, the vaccine. Like, even thinking for a second that there is a remotely organized, genuine leftist communist movement in America is... It's hilarious. That's the funniest part of the show. Joe Rogan remarks on how people are tribal and like to be in teams politically.
People desperately want to be on a team. We're tribal. And there's only 2 teams in this country. There's the left and the right. You know? You don't want to be independent. You don't want to be that weird dude at the bar telling everybody that gold is the only legitimate currency and all tax is theft.
Which is very shallow analysis that a lot of, like, enlightened centrist guys like to have. that really does omit the extremely common attitude that he has, being a smug pseudo-independent. Like, ironically, I think he is the most propagandized kind of person. Not all of the State Department narratives stick, but the ones that do are so fundamental to his entire worldview. They're unchangeable. I mean, his very next bit is another example about how he and the woke left disagree on the gender stuff, the gender madness.
We believe that healthcare is a basic human right. I agree. We think that education should be free. Me too. And men can get pregnant. Fuck!
I seriously don't think it's any part of any party platform anywhere to specifically say that men can get pregnant. That's also not politics, by the way, at all. Just you nosing into people's business for no fucking reason. The 14 pregnant men that can get pregnant in the fucking United States. He's literally getting mad at a hypothetical situation that he made up, that he didn't like the answer to, and that's just another example of how the left has gone too far. Then, in one of what I think is the worst comedic bit of all time, he starts complaining and shitting himself about the pregnant man emoji.
All of a sudden, it's an emoji on your phone. You probably don't even know. You probably don't even know that you have that. It's a pregnant man. Oh, finally! Finally, there's a pregnant man emoji! Representation. Finally, I could write eggplant, splash of water, pregnant man. Finally!
Why is this a thing for you? You have to look for it to get mad. It's an emoji. This is not politics. Why does this inform your political decisions? Why are you thinking like, oh, fucking thanks to Nancy Pelosi, we got the fucking pregnant man in my phone? That's not who did that, man. Joe Biden actually impregnated that man and then made you download the emoji of it. Just looking back at the whole special, it's funny how much he brings up how psychedelics have changed his perspective of like time and physics and the universe and all that. But gender, no. Gender is obviously a much more rigid binary than all that. Man with belly, that don't make no sense in my head. The emoji has a little emoji fetus in his little emoji womb, and he cannot get an abortion because I am pro-life. That little emoji fetus is an emoji life. So stupid. Does this seem super normal for people?
Listen, if you're a heterosexual man, and I know there's a few of us left, you know,
hell yeah, man. Finally some cheers for the heterosexual men. There's only so many left. Yeah, there's more men that can get pregnant, apparently, than heterosexual men. It's like a parody of something a conservative would say. It's so banal. I feel like I'm watching Mr. Burcham right now. He starts saying we need like extra words to describe the kind of men we need to get pregnant. Wait.
I'm willing to say men get pregnant. I'm willing to say pregnant men. I just don't think it's a good, I think you need extra words. It's like, how many men can get pregnant? It's not a lot of them, right? Is there anything different about the ones who can? Like, maybe we should use extra words.
Does he mean trans? There's a word for that. It's the word trans. It is a really good word for that kind of guy, actually. What is wrong with him? Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he forgot. Even though he does say he believes in trans people, which, brave. Really brave of him to come out and say that.
I just want to be real clear. I believe in trans people because I think the world is strange and nature is strange, and I think nature can throw you a curveball and you believe you're in the wrong body.
But then he says, we have to make room for crazy.
Suddenly, every man in a dress is stunning and brave. It's like, trans women are women. How about most? How about almost all? You gotta leave room for crazy.
Which doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Well, come on, crazy people don't get a gender, we know that. We decide crazy people's gender for them, because we're normal. No one misgenders Ted Bundy on purpose. But yeah, his point doesn't make any sense, and then his evidence is movies.
I'm sorry if it's taking me a while to adjust, but all my life, if there was a movie about a killer, he was way crazier if he wore a dress.
This is your average conservative logic, by the way.
It's almost like a pervert wizard waved a magic spell in the whole world. Like, with a wave of this wand, you can walk through the women's locker room with a hard cock, and anybody who complains is a Nazi. Abracadabra!
This fucking pisses me off, because this is exactly how I feel, but about him. A fucking pervert wizard put a spell on Joe Rogan's bald head to make him obsess over all the fucking genitals in every locker room bathroom in America matching all the time. That's the only thing that fucking matters. This might be new to Joe fucking Rogan, but trans people have existed all throughout history and across cultures globally. Like, transphobia is so stupid. You think this shit just came out, new genders invented by Obama in 2013 in a lab?
I just think we need standards. You can't just put lipstick on, now you can shit in the women's room. Like,
dude, listen to yourself. What are you saying right now? This is so embarrassing. Why would someone do that just to take a shit? And also, who cares? Are you gonna check? They're shitting. I need to approve who shits in the bathroom and who doesn't. I don't like my job, but I do it because I have to. I don't know, any transphobes watching, you could just stop. It might seem impossible. You have to realize how wrong you are and understand that you can just let it go. Stop caring. It's as easy as that. It's so much easier than trying to bend other people to your will and your worldview. How is this guy who is all about psychedelics and the meaning of life so hung up on shit that does not pertain to him or affect him at all? Do more drugs, Joe Rogan, until you forget what the fucking emotional hang-up you have is here. Forget this is going on and notice that nothing about your life has changed. Then again, you might actually have to start writing material instead of regurgitating 2014 tweets. The next special is going to be like, guys, I just heard of this new thing. It's called attack helicopter gender. What the heck? Then Joe Rogan opens a joke with what I think is the funniest thing he could possibly say as Joe Rogan. And it's not even on purpose.
I was watching a Roe v. Wade protest.
No, you were not. I don't fucking believe him at all. He was probably watching a Libs of TikTok clip. Let's be fucking real.
I was watching a Roe v. Wade protest where there's a dude in a dress. So it's a women's reproductive rights protest. And there's a guy in a dress with a hairy chest and a 5 o'clock shadow. And he's screaming in a cop's face, "Keep your laws out of my pussy!"
He ironically starts assuming someone's gender rather than picking up on the context clues in the situation.
Everyone was like, "Yeah, stay out of her pussy!" I'm like, "Oh my God, we're in Narnia. What is this? That's a guy!"
Like, the whole point of the joke is he saw a video of someone online and they looked crazy. At that point, you should just scrap the whole thing. Don't put that in your Netflix special.
First of all, that's probably not even a real trans person. That's probably a Republican. That's probably an agent provocateur sent in to discredit your organization with ridiculous behavior.
I think this is a funny example of how transphobic interpretations of gender binary start to malfunction in people's minds when they see someone who's gender nonconforming. So the person Joe Rogan is talking about says they have a pussy, but Joe, seeing far too much hair on them, would rather make his own, less logical conclusion that undermines this person's perceived identity simply for the sake of doing it. There's no point. It's not even a joke. It's just trans erasure because they look weird to him, and therefore he doesn't believe them anymore. Like, this person could be a trans man. They could be non-binary. They could be who cares. And the way he goes about this is funny because it contradicts Joe Rogan's actual thoughtful observation on how a lot of straight men perceive lesbians.
Every man that has ever lived, you give him 3 drinks, he thinks he can fix a lesbian.
Ironically, Joe Rogan does the same kind of erasure to a trans person because he thinks he can change them with the power of, I don't know, shame. It's the same surface level judgment and denial of someone else's identity for your own weird, selfish purposes. It's weird that he can recognize that in some cases, but not when he's doing it. He also apparently memorized how many trans people are in women's prisons in California.
In California, there's 47 biological males that are housed in women's prisons.
I don't know why he did this. This is super fucking gross. Also, 47? 47 out of a prison population of 100,000, by the way, in California. 47 people are on his mind all the time for no fucking reason. He's not talking about them for any reason. He's just saying they are there. How crazy is the world now? This is nuts. Why do you care about this? Oh, and it is, of course, because of China TikTok. So
I don't know what happened. I think it's China. I'm only half kidding. I think they got us with TikTok.
It's really funny to pose yourself as a skeptic of American State Department narratives and then bite the hook hard on anti-China fear-mongering.
I really am worried about China. I
mean, calling trans people a Chinese psyop is kind of new to the transphobic stand-up world. I've never heard it before.
Why do you not trust the science?
Dude, Joe Rogan, science has turned you into a Ninja Turtle. You take testosterone replacement. That's how you look like that. But he doesn't trust the science about one vaccine. It's so stupid. Like, you're not a skeptic all of a sudden because you don't believe in one thing.
Why don't you trust the science?
I got canceled so often during COVID that sometimes I would find out by accident.
Okay, so you just weren't canceled at all then. That's just, I think, people not liking you. We fully reached a point where cancel just means fucking nothing. Make sure you guys subscribe, like and subscribe to this cancellation attempt. Be sure to check out my cancellation Patreon where I cancel Joe Rogan every day on there. Listen, I don't understand how there can only be two genders when Joe Rogan has sweat visibly pooling beneath his big naturals. Yeah, maybe not so binary after all, you son of a bitch. Listen, I just think it's really funny that all the drugs that Joe Rogan doesn't actually make him a better person or a more enlightened person at all. It just turns him into like Alex Jones with CTE. One like weird pattern that bothered me a lot in this special was how often Joe Rogan would use indigenous people as a punchline. I can only assume it's to be as edgy and mean as possible, finding the most marginalized kind of person to make a joke at the expense of, but how often he does it just shows that I think it was intentional, and I think it's a fucking weird look. I mean, one of the first things he says in the special is smoking Texas weed makes him believe we gotta give this land back.
Because if you smoke too much Texas weed, you're like, we gotta give this land back. Dude, what the fuck did they do?
Most people just read like the history of what happened and come to that conclusion, but if that's how he does it, then I guess that's fine too. It would be cool if he actually believed stuff like that though when he said it, instead of just kind of saying it as like a, oh, what if, right? Then he talks about how every Buc-ee's is actually on a native burial ground, because that's funny.
I heard that every Buc-ee's is built on an Indian burial ground.
I think it's exactly that. Like, you can't say much about it. It's just kind of a shitty jab for no reason from a rich multimillionaire. It's just gross. What's definitely the most egregious in the special itself, though, is comparing his Neanderthal background to being indigenous American.
I did one of those. I found out I'm 57% more Neanderthal than regular people. Yeah, I'm fucking handicapped. Yeah, the Europeans killed my people too. Where the fuck's my casino? Huh? I want my cave back!
It just feels like he's marionetting indigenous causes and terms to make a audience of white millennials laugh. I like when comedians joke about things with context and intention instead of that. It's usually funnier. It's a really lame and really lazy part of this special that, you know, I think Joe Rogan really picked specifically to make people mad. Now he's talking about how smart Elon Musk is, of course.
I'm friends with Elon Musk, which is the intellectual equivalent of a boy and his dog.
It's so awesome, dude. It's like believing the Superman on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is actually Superman because he said he is. The amount of praise Joe Rogan gives to Elon Musk, again, reinforces my point that he's one of the most propagandized people in the fucking world.
I was having a conversation with that guy where he was explaining to me how this rocket ship his company designed is going to move civilization to Mars.
We're not going to Mars. That's just never fucking happened. Like, why do people still believe this? Elon has been saying this since like 2011. Private corporations heading space travel, I think, has demonstrably been a scam and a way for the private sector to funnel money out of the federal government and enrich their CEOs and shareholders.
If evolution's real, that guy's ahead of us. But I don't know if evolution's real. I've done zero research. Like, if a moron told you the story of evolution, you'd be like, what happened?
That's a really bad way to measure if something is true or not, by the way. All Joe Rogan does is listen to stupid people explain things badly. He believes them all the time.
I don't say the N-word, but I definitely have. And I would lie to you, but there's a lot of evidence. Like, I never said it to be racist because I'm not racist, but then somebody made a compilation of every time I ever said that word over the last 15 years, and they made a YouTube video, and it turns out that looks racist as fuck!
Maybe it looks racist because it is racist, you know, just food for thought.
Words are for fun, kids!
I don't know if he knows where that word came from. It wasn't like a fun thing.
The problem isn't words, folks, the problem is phones. This is the problem. We all have these complaint boxes we carry around with us.
But you're right, the problem is phones. Slurs were fine before everyone could, you know, hear you saying them. Like, I'm sorry, the most undeniable thing about conspiracy guys is that they fucking love their phones. They're the first people telling you to unplug and how bad social media is for your brain, but also get, you know, a huge share of their news from Freedom Guy 1842 on YouTube, who told them all about Hillary Clinton building energy weapons to melt the ice caps and cause global warming for woke. Like, everything Joe Rogan has said in this special is stuff that he got from his phone on social media. Joe Rogan demonstrably is the one who's too online. He believes anything. He closes out the show with yelling about how he wants to get his grandpa laid.
You go to visit Grandpa, he's got an army helmet on, open bathrobe, bottle of Jack, big old heart on, bunch of blacked out naked old ladies in his room. It's like, I fuck and I wait for the Lord.
Which is so twisted and crazy and fucked up. Joe Rogan is more podcaster than comedian. It's not his main gig, and you can tell. But it's really baffling to me how unoriginal these washed up conservative types end up being. Their brains stagnate at a certain point, and they just can't comprehend comedy outside of their base instinct to make fun of people lower than them. Other than that, it's just a performance of culture war grievance and selective nostalgia, on top of the cheapest jabs thrown in when they're not self-victimizing about being canceled for the 47th time. Maybe this time it'll fucking stick. I mean, you'd think if these guys were right and comedy needed saving from wokeness as bad as it does, that they would try just a little harder. And that's not just Joe Rogan, that's all of them. This special in particular makes me really wonder what the future of conservative comedy is gonna be. Like, this culture war manufactured pseudo-intellectual vomit is only so sustainable. I don't know how popular this really is with people. It certainly doesn't appeal to people outside of Joe Rogan's fan base or outside of the in-group of people who are already obsessed with this kind of rhetoric and repeat it to themselves. People go to these people to clap and nod their heads more so than they actually do to laugh. But hey, maybe in another 6 years we'll see Joe Rogan even older and more weird looking, and he'll be talking about how, you know, gay marriage is bad or something because Elon Musk said that it was. But that's gonna do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to click the like button about it, or subscribe for more videos just like this. Subscribe to the Patreon for bonus content, and I'm probably streaming live right now on twitch.tv/PethanOnline if you want to come say hi. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.